Hi Fixer family, it's Charmin. Welcome to Fixin' To. So here are the supplies that you're going to need for today's project. We're going to be using 7 of these garden fences from the Dollar Tree. And I know there's some different colors here, but as long as they're all the same, the color's not going to matter because we're going to be using our Rust-Oleum American Accent in the color Black Gloss. And we'll be spray painting this whole project. We're also going to be using some different cutting tools, a utility knife, scissors, wire cutters, and some E6000 and hot glue. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you're going to do is take one of your fences, and I'm going to go ahead and cut off the little stakes here at the bottom. You definitely won't need these at all. And for me, you'll see that I use quite a bit these wire cutters. These seem to work the best, but you'll find out that as you're going through, there are certain areas that you'll use the scissors and also the utility knife. So definitely have all of those on hand. So we'll go ahead and get these cut off, and then what we're looking at on this first piece is we want 2 of the arched areas. So basically we're going to cut it right down the center, and of course I don't need that center piece there. I found out cutting this out first made it a lot easier to cut it apart. So I'm just going to go ahead using the wire cutters and then the scissors, because once you get through the thicker part, the scissors cut the other part really easily. So of course with this, we're going to be kind of creating like a heart type shape. And so what we're going to do is come in from either side, cutting off that bottom little swirl there to kind of start the top of our heart. Now before I go any further, I want to give a shout out to Chantel from Lovin Lifes Journey. This particular project came from inspiration from hers that she did, and I wanted to not only do this for my porch, or my front entryway, but I also wanted to do this for you guys to show you how really easy this is to put together. So now that we've gotten that first piece cut out, we also went in with a third piece from that one and created this particular swirl with the arrow at the top, and then we took the arrow out and split the last one in that. So that is your first fence piece. Now the second fence piece that you'll need for this one, you're going to take these 2 arrows and the swirl on the opposite side of each other. Now that's real important when we go to put this all together. You want to make sure that you have the one going to the left on one of them and the one going to the right on the other. And so we'll just pull off all of the, or should I say cut off all the pieces that we don't need, and then create the 2 little swirls with the arrows. Now I did take my utility knife on this particular part because I found that it was easier when I kind of cut through the thicker part and then created kind of like a score line to start with, and then it was easier for me to just cut it apart so that it would be a little bit more exact than trying to hack away at it with a pair of scissors. So you see how easy it came off. It takes a little bit of work, putting the pressure on it because it is kind of a heavy plastic, but it does come apart and creates these really nice pieces. Then after I got everything cut, I go in with my scissors and I kind of trim up any of the rough edges. You can also use a piece of sandpaper to kind of, sand some things down. But I just found it really easy to go in with the scissors and clean them all up. So here's all 6 pieces cut out of 2 of your garden fences and what they look like. So now we're going to take our largest piece, the one with the 2 arches at the top, and we're going to take our piece that has the swirls and the arrow all connected. We're going to turn our arrow going downward and then place it, lining it up right up the center. And you see kind of how I've got the swirls laid on top of it. And we're going to use some E6000 and also some hot glue on this particular piece. Now I didn't use E6000 on every single part because I'm also using the Gorilla Glue hot glue, and it really does stick real well to this. And basically I'm laying it on there, and every place that it touches each other, the bottom piece and the top piece, I'm placing some hot glue. Letting that sit a minute to definitely pull it together. I'm going to be taking our second 2 arrows that we had split going each direction. You see now why we need one going one way and one going the other way. We're going to lay it to where the arrows are kind of coming to a point at the bottom, laying over those bottom 2 swirls, and then laying them up at the top. And again, doing the exact same thing every time I'm placing a piece on there. Wherever it touches each other, that's where I go in with the glue to make sure that we get a nice and secure hold on our pieces. Our last 2 pieces are the C-shaped swirls with no arrow on them, and we're going to lay these at the top, kind of closing in our heart shape. And really, you'll just kind of, as you're placing these pieces on, you'll just make sure that they look uniform on both sides. They look that they're touching in places, and then just going in and putting the hot glue on where they're touching to get a nice secure fit. Make sure that you guys are checking the community tab on my home page. Now, it is so easy to find. It is right there below my picture, and it's 4 jumps over, and you'll see community, and just click on that and you'll see any announcements that I have made, from if videos are going to be late coming, fun things that I am joining in with others, or just any everyday announcements. They will be right there. So make sure that you've hit that notification bell so that you're notified when I post there. And if you have clicked it and aren't getting notified, make sure you're regularly checking the community tab. So let's go ahead and get back into today's project. So at the beginning of this video, I told you you needed 7 of the garden fences. And that 7th garden fence is to be able to make 4 of these. Now, I realized that I only had 6. I don't know why I didn't have 7, but I did not. So I'm going to show you what I did to create these particular pieces. I wound up having 1, but I needed 3 additional. So I took scrap pieces that I had been cutting off when creating the other 6 pieces and putting them together with hot glue to create the other 3 pieces that I need for this medallion's fill-ins. So it is really super simple. I just took the one that you're supposed to have and took those scrap pieces and then just began to hot glue them together. I used the one that I did have to use kind of as a guide and a template to make sure that I had it as close to the same height, size that that they're supposed to be. Guys, I just filled the hot glue on the back side of it to make sure that it stayed together and was super sturdy. And guys, this really did work. I was so excited that even though I didn't have the 7th one, but that I was still able to make these pieces for the fillers. So now guys, now that you have 4 of these hearts made, it is time to put this together. And it is really about making sure that everything looks uniform when you're putting it together. So you'll kind of have to tweak it. And we just start with overlapping by putting one at the top, one at the bottom, overlapping that very bottom arrow, and then doing the same going side to side as you see I'm doing here. And I'm kind of dry fitting it here just to make sure that everything fits together like it needs to. You may have to switch some of them in different spaces, but it's just real simple to make sure that you're getting them lined up correctly. And as you see, I'm just using some E6000 in some spots and hot glue in most of the other. And it's really where everything touches is where you're going to put your glue, of course. But you want to make sure that everything is looking uniform across. And this winds up being about 26.5 to 27 inches in diameter in the crossways there. And it just really came together so beautifully. And I know that I have, like I said earlier, 2 different colors here, but we're going to bring it all together once we get everything put together. So you'll see that I'm kind of grabbing it in some spaces to make sure that I don't have anything that's not been glued, and then just putting a dab of glue where it needs to. Now comes the time for our filler pieces. All of my pieces here that I put together to make these filler pieces. And I'm just again dry fitting to make sure everything fits well and I kind of know where everything needs to go. Once I get them in the proper spot, then I'm just going to glue everything down, again making sure that you're putting glue where everything touches. Now that we have everything done, with this first one done, I'm going to go ahead and glue the rest of them, and then we're going to be ready to do a few little tweaking. It's still just a little bit flimsy, so I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to make sure that everything's been glued together and kind of reinforce. But I'm also going to cut the excess of those filler pieces that's a little too long, and I didn't want them sticking out and kind of being shown from the front side. So I go ahead and cut those off, put glue in places, pulling, tugging, making sure everything is good and together, and then we'll be ready to paint. Before we paint, I'm also doing one last little touch here, and that's going in and pulling off all of the hot glue strings that you can have there, because when you paint, you do not want those being there, because then it begins to look like spider webs. So now I'm just painting this and going to get one really good coat, and it covered it really well. Guys, this project is my second project in my front entryway makeover, and I totally forgot to get the before pictures, and so I'm grabbing some shots from some other videos to kind of give you an idea of what my entryway looked like before we got started. Now this is a pretty good picture of my door, but my front door really got into some really sad shape before we replaced it. it was just bad. It was really bad. So here are the befores, and we're going to be getting ready to hopefully show you the afters in just a couple of weeks. So I'm just going to use these vinyl siding hangers that I got from Amazon, and I'll link those down below for you. And then just hang these up in this spot on my entryway, and I just think it turned out beautiful. I'm so glad that you guys joined me today, and if this is the first time to my channel, welcome. I'm so glad you decided to stop by. Consider sticking around and becoming a part of the Fixer family by hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you're notified each time I upload new videos. And if no one has told you today, you are amazing. And always remember to keep looking up, because that's where it all is. I'll see you on the next video.